Alex, dog mom of 3 here, and welcome back for another video. I first wanted to apologize for filming this video in a hoodie. The polar vortex is on its way here right now. Tomorrow morning at this time we'll be at the wind chills of -30 or something crazy. So, and I live in an older house and the heating isn't that great, and so it's cold, and this is what I want to be in so I can be warm. So I apologize. Cash is still a good one. So, as you're probably wondering by the title, how did Benny almost kill Cassius here? How could he ever do such a thing? Benny, so sweet, so gentle, so loving. A monster! We got Cassius here as a tiny pup, like I talked about in my first video. He was our first puppy of the 3 boys, and we were, I guess you could say, ignorant on the fact of dog vaccines. I mean, I knew what they were and why we got them. So when we got Cassius, I was under the impression that getting him vaccines, which I don't know why, because I'm so anti-vaxxers when it comes to like humans and kids. So I should have done it, I know, but we did not get Cassius vaccinated. With this being said, at the time, I was under the impression that we really only needed to get him vaccinated if we planned on taking him like to dog parks and doggy hotels, having them boarded a lot, those types of things. As a puppy, Cassius was super healthy. We never had any issues. Fast forward about 4 months, and we decided we were going to get a new dog. Obviously, that's where Benny came from. Right on cue, there is Sir Benny. We get Benny, we adopt him, take him home, everything's good, peachy keen, love a new puppy, he's so cute, so small. Fast forward to later that night, I am cuddling with our new puppy, Benny, who did not have a name yet. We were not sure what we were gonna name him. I think his name might have been Rocky at that point in the night, I'm not really sure. We were cuddling with him, and I noticed that the bottom of his paws were shaved, like around his forearm area. So I texted the person that I got him from, and I said, I'm concerned, was he recently hospitalized, because it looks a lot like dogs that have had their paws shaved to have IVs. She replies a little later and says, yeah, the breeder that we got him from was not very great. They didn't treat their animals well, and he was very dehydrated and had a lot of fleas and ticks on him when we brought him in, so he had an IV and his paw was shaved. I said, okay, still being sketched out in this moment. Like, red flag, red flag. I say, is there any way you can send me that just so I know, like his vet records, so that I know if there's anything I need to do to take care of him and make sure that he's okay. She says, yeah, sure, that's fine. So she sends me them. I'm ignorant. Again, this is all about me being ignorant. And I print out the vet records she sends me, and I put them in his folder where all his other records go. So let's fast forward once again to, I don't know, 2-ish months later, and I was reffing sand volleyball at the time, and Tyler was also working evenings, so we were both gone during the evening. We had a roommate at the time, and I came home from work and noticed that Cassius had thrown up, which wasn't normal. Obviously, dogs just don't throw up. I think I might have asked Robert, our roommate, about it, and he had said maybe that he puked one other time. I'm a little worried at this point. He's puked twice, not a good sign. At this point, I'm thinking maybe his stomach is upset, maybe, you know, he's eaten something, a battery, I don't know. Dogs eat everything, they get into everything. It could have been anything. At that point, I just decide I'm gonna keep an eye on him for a little bit. And within 5 minutes, he throws up again. So at this point, I look at Tyler and I tell him that I think we need to go to the vet. He is sitting on my lap. Are you comfy? Are you comfy? So at this point, I decide that I want to call around to the vets that are open. It's late at night. It's probably 9:30, 10 o'clock at this point. So I'm calling around to the small amount of vets that are open and then also the pet hospitals around here. Every single one asked if he was vaccinated, and of course I told them no. And every single one said we need to bring him in right away to test him for Parvo. Now, if you've never heard of Parvo, I will put the definition right here. I'm sure PetWebMD can explain it way better than me. And at this point, I start freaking out. The only experience that I had ever had with Parvo was with a close family friend. They had a puppy that got Parvo and died. And I knew that as a kid, my great-grandparents had a litter of puppies, and they took them to a pet store to be sold, and the puppies got Parvo and all of them died. So at this point, I'm thinking we need to get him to the vet as fast as we can, first off, and second off, if he has Parvo, we're gonna lose our Cassius, which is heartbreaking to me now, and in that moment literally made me vomit, but we'll get there. We obviously pack Cassius up. We decide that we're not gonna chance it. He needs to go right to the vet. He's throwing up again. He's acting lethargic. He won't really eat, he won't really drink. We pack Cassius up in the car, we leave Benny here, and we go to the nearest vet hospital. When we got to the vet hospital, we were not allowed to go inside. We had to call the pet hospital. This is one of the ones that I called to see what they thought I should do. We were not allowed to go inside the hospital, the pet hospital, because Parvo is so contagious among dogs that even Cassius walking on the floor could then get another puppy sick. The vet then walked us through what was going to happen. They have to do like a swab of their rectal cavity to get a stool sample, and they yelp really loud. That was terrifying. I started crying then. We then had to just wait, and that was honestly probably the worst part, because I think both Tyler and I knew, or at least I knew, that that's probably what it was, and if not, he was still really sick either way it went, which wasn't going to be good no matter the outcome. We waited, and eventually they came back probably an hour or so later. At this point, it's 1 or 2 in the morning. We're sitting in the parking lot of a vet and just waiting with a sick Cassius who's throwing up. The vet comes back around, I want to say between 1 or 2 in the morning, I don't really know, comes out to the car and says, Cassius does have Parvo, and you have 2 options. She said you can take him home or you can leave him here with us. If we were to take him home, his chance of survival would be about 50-50. We would have to provide all medical care, and they would give us the supplies, but we would have to provide it here at home, and also hope, because at this point we had no idea that Benny had once had Parvo. We thought we were at risk of also infecting Benny. So at this point we thought Cassius has Parvo, and we also have this brand new puppy at home that's also 3 months old. Cassius at this point is 4 months old. The other option was to leave him there with them, and he would have about an 80 to 90% chance of survival, but we would not get to see him. That would be, we would give him to them, and they would call and make updates every day, but that would be all. We could not have any contact with him, we couldn't see him, and also it was going to be obviously very expensive, a couple $1,000s. We asked to have a couple minutes to ourselves to talk about it and talk about what we wanted to do and what could work best for us, and ultimately we decided that there was no question, we didn't even question it, both of us, that Cassius had to stay there. We didn't want a 50-50 chance. We didn't want to give Cassius a 50-50 chance. He had Parvo because we didn't get him vaccinated, and that's all there is to it. So ultimately, it was our fault that he had Parvo. Vaccines are not 100% curative or preventative of Parvo, but they're pretty darn close. And with the situation that Cassius was in and how he got Parvo, I feel like he probably wouldn't have got it, or gotten it much, much less severely if we would have just gotten him vaccinated when he was a puppy. We got home, we went to bed, and we woke up the next morning, and that's when the cleaning started. First off, we, at this point, again, still thought that Benny had not had parvo, and he was 100% probably going to get it, and we were going to have to make another tough decision because we had just checked one puppy in to the vet for a couple $1,000s, and now we had this other puppy who had been exposed to it. Were we going to, could we afford it? Could we keep him at home? Was that fair to give one dog an 80% chance and one dog a 50% chance? But could we afford what it was going to cost to put both of them in the vet hospital and get them better? And that's what was going through our heads the next morning. And we did some research on parvo and got cleaning. We had to bleach everything. Everything had to be bleached. The bottom of our shoes had to be bleached. All the floors had to be bleached. Everything that I could bleach, I bleached. Tyler then went out in the backyard because parvo is carried through fecal matter. They get it from other dogs' feces. Tyler went out with a shovel and dug a hole under every single piece of poop in our yard. Every single piece of poop in our yard, he dug a hole and took the dirt and grass with it and poured bleach on it. That's overkill, I guess. That's what the vet told us. That was a little overkill, not necessary, but at this point we didn't want Benny to get it, and we didn't want it to be in our yard. We have dogs over all the time. We didn't want this to affect anyone else's animal or hinder our ability to have animals to our house. It took about 2 days to get everything bleached. I had to bleach all their water bowls, their food bowls, all their toys went in the trash, leashes, collars, everything went in the trash. At that point, we were just receiving our calls. We got a call in the morning and we got a call at night to update us how Cassius was. And this was probably, honestly, one of the hardest parts about it. When they called, it was always mixed things. In the morning, he was good, and then at night, he wasn't, and then it was just a lot of up and down. We weren't seeing Cassius, and we weren't touching him, and we weren't interacting with him, and he was our puppy, and we had raised him from when he was so small, and now they're just telling us that he's going up and down, and different people are calling us every 12 hours, and so it's like, do you even know? But that's where we were with just the situation at the vet. He was in the vet for 3 nights and 4 days. During the day, on the 4th day, we decided from the phone calls that we thought we should go get Cassius, that maybe Cassius needed to do the rest of his healing at home. Let's see how he was. We wanted to see if there was any way we could handle this on our own. So we went back to the pet hospital and we got Cassius. When we checked out of the hospital, we were given, I think, 1 bag of fluids, 1 liter of fluids, and then 2 different types of medicine, 1 for nausea and 1, I think, was his anti-parvo. When I first saw him, I knew that he still wasn't okay. He was still really lethargic, he was still really weak, and he still really didn't have life. He was like a walking zombie dog. But we brought him home, and we first set him up in our room. Big mistake. Within 5 minutes of putting him on the blanket in our room, he was up and walking towards the back door. Right as he walked out of the hallway, he then projectile diarrheaed everywhere. I mean everywhere. He got outside eventually and then was able to finish out there, but it didn't really stop. He then came in the kitchen and would have diarrhea. We would get him back outside more, and it was just kind of what was happening. At that point, I wondered if I had made a mistake by bringing him home. Maybe he was still really sick. Maybe I shouldn't have second-guessed the vet. Maybe a lot of things. And at that point, we took it day by day. We gave him his medicine. He had to be syringe fed because he wouldn't eat or drink, so we had to force him to eat or drink or he was going to die. We did that about 3 times a day, I'd say. We would mix the food with a little bit of water. I would put it in a syringe, and then I would hold him between my legs. And so I had to syringe feed him probably about 3 times a day and hope that he wouldn't throw up. Every time we fed him, it was just feed him and hope he doesn't throw it up, because if he throws it up, he didn't get much out of that. For a few days, he just laid on the blanket in front of the refrigerator, and that was it. We had him blocked in the kitchen. We learned our lesson after the diarrhea on the carpet. I think it was probably the 3rd day. He got an IV that had some medicine in it and obviously fluids, and he went outside. I'm pretty sure that's also the first day that we let Cassius and Benny outside together at the same time, because at this point we had Cassius's vet records. And it's because when we got home and I went to put Cassius's vet records away in his folder, which they don't have their own folder, it's one folder, Cassius on one side, Benny on the other. The vet records that I had gotten from Bud's previous owner were the exact same as Cassius's. That means that Benny gave Cassius Parvo. We blame Benny's terrible previous owner that let us adopt their puppy from them, knowing very well what they had just encountered with them. There was a laundry list of reasons that they gave us for needing to get rid of Benny, and one of them was to pay his vet bills from when they got him from the breeder, and obviously that wasn't true, the breeder part, but they just needed the money to pay for his vet bills and just gave us the vet bills as well. Cassius started to feel better about day 4, I want to say, day 4 being home. At this point, it was about 8 days that we had been working on getting Cassius back to healthy between us and also the vet, obviously. It was exhausting. It was emotionally exhausting, physically exhausting. It taught us a big lesson: always get your dogs vaccinated, always vaccinate your dogs. It also taught us to take your dog to the vet right away. Cassius started throwing up about 10 p.m. So we very well could have gone to bed and woken up the next morning, and Cassius might have been too sick to have that 90% chance of survival, and obviously 100% because he's still here. But I know that was a lot of me talking today. I don't have any footage of this because I wasn't thinking about YouTube at the time. Also, I apologize for the kind of depressing content, but I hope you guys learned something from this. And also, I'm so happy we still have our Cassius with us. I couldn't even imagine. He's the sweetest boy, so I couldn't even fathom losing Cassius at this point. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.